Hello, my name is Rob Webb. I am the Sales Enablement Manager at IDS, and welcome to this video on chromatic adaption in IDS Peak. Over the next 15 minutes, I will show you how you can use chromatic adaption in the IDS Peak SDK and the associated Cockpit software to control and configure the color processing of IDS cameras. For a bit of background to help understand the chromatic adaption usage in IDS Peak, I want to first introduce a few concepts around colour. A colour is a very interesting subject. It can be seen as both subjective and objective. It is a subjective concept in that it relies on how an observer perceives the colour of an object, and this is primarily driven by the light source and the observer themselves. Different light sources have different spectra, and this affects which wavelengths are reflected by the object, and the truly subjective element, the observer, can perceive colour in different ways. And this has been the subject of several viral social media posts, including the dress, which some perceived as white and gold, and others as black and blue, depending on their assumption about the colour temperature of the light source. When we talk about colour temperature, this defines the spectral characteristics of the light source. Here we can see the differences in spectral output of midday sunlight, evening sunlight, tungsten lamps and candlelight, all expressed in degrees Kelvin, and somewhat counterintuitively, the lower temperatures relate to warmer colours and higher temperatures relate to cooler colours. But actually, despite the dress example, we as humans are very good at adapting our colour perception to different colour temperatures. Which leads us to the notion that colour is also objective. Colour is a spectrum. We know that blue wavelengths are around 380 to 500 nanometers, green and yellow 500 to 570 nanometers, and oranges and reds are 570 to 700 nanometers, and the nearer infrared beyond this. And we can measure this. Turning to human vision, our eyes contain cones which are sensitive to different wavelengths. The S cones are sensitive to blue, the M cones are mainly sensitive to green, and L cones to red. It is these cones that are responsible for our colour perception, and this just happens to kind of correlate with RGB colour representation that you will most likely be familiar with. When we capture images with a camera, the ideal is that the colour information acquired on the sensor is accurately reproduced when the image is displayed. We use colour spaces in the digital world to model how colours are displayed or used. These are 3D spaces where three values are plotted on the axes, and any three values represent a colour, normally shown as 2D representations because it's easier to see all of the colours. It isn't possible, or at least reasonable, to represent all of the colours that humans can perceive, so colour spaces tend to be a lossy way to represent colours, but still do a very good job in most respects. This means there are different colour spaces depending on the application, and this is important to note as this is something that we need to consider when configuring the chromatic adaption. There is a lot of information on colour and colour spaces, and it really is a fascinating subject, and I encourage you to look into it further. But for the purpose of this video, we probably don't need to go any deeper. Our topic today is on chromatic adaption. We have seen already how our perception of colour can vary depending on the light source. In some applications in machine vision that use colour, even poorly configured systems could be sufficient for checking rudimentary colour differences. A production line manufacturing whiteboard pens containing red, green, blue and black may want to check the correct cap is on the correct pen. In this case, the accuracy of the representation of each colour is not super critical because there is enough of a difference between the base colours. Using the pixel viewer in Peak Cockpit, we can view the colour values, and we know that a red cap will have a high value in the red channel and lower in the green and blue channels. Green will have a higher value in the green channel, blue in the blue channel, and black will have lower values across all channels. If there is some variation in the amount of red, green or blue, it might not be enough to seriously affect the visualization or image processing. The case here is without any white balancing adjustment, only a color correction matrix applied, which is enabled by default on IDS color cameras and corrects for spectral transmission variance due to the IR cut filter used in the camera and for crosstalk between the individual pixel filters. Of course, we absolutely would not recommend ever deploying a color inspection system that is not appropriately configured. It's just to illustrate a point. In many color applications, a simple white balance is used to correct the colors in an image. A neutral target in the scene, either white or gray, is used as a reference to automatically adjust the red, green, and blue channels to ensure any pixels in the area of the target are white or gray. We see here a simple white balancing process where a neutral area is selected for the white balancing and the automatic white balance performed, and our color representation improves. It is maybe not so clear in this scene, but seeing the before and after images side by side, it's easier to see the difference. And if we look at a line profile across the neutral panels in the test chart, you can see the difference in RGB levels. For a good white balance, the red, green and blue values should be equal, which clearly they are not in the unbalanced image. This is all well and good so long as there is a neutral target in the scene. If the lighting changes, we can run another white balance and correct for the differences automatically. The example here shows the color temperature cycling between 3 values, and the auto white balance does a very good job of correcting the colors each time. But what if we don't have the benefit of a neutral reference point in the image? A good example of this is microscopy, where whole samples may be colored with dye, or fluorescence means the background is black, or color filters are used to highlight different features. Here, correct diagnosis or recording of results can be dependent on accurate color representation. To illustrate this, imagine we do not have the convenience of the neutral panels on the color checker chart and white balance on the entire image. As I switch the color temperature of our light source and perform the auto white balance, the results, well, to our eye maybe don't look too bad in some cases, since we are very good at adapting our color perception. But keep looking at the line profile again to see the RGB values across the neutral panels on the chart, and we can see there is still quite a significant error, as well as the actual color errors. Chromatic adaptation provides an alternative method to adjusting colors based on the known or estimated color temperature of the light source. In the test scene, the light source has variable color temperatures, 2200, 3800 and 5500 Kelvin. And this is with a big asterisk that this is a consumer light source, so I cannot vouch for how well calibrated the light source is. And in fact, from my testing, I would suggest the numbers are some way off the truth in some cases. However, it's a place to start. So with this knowledge, we can use the chromatic adaptation to provide more accuracy in the color representation. A couple of notes before we get into this. For this example, we will be working in the sRGB color space. This is the color space that is used by monitors and display devices. sRGB does not map perfectly to human color perception. Our eyes and brains are much better at distinguishing darker colors, so rather than displaying colors in a linear fashion, sRGB also includes a non-linear correction, known as gamma correction, and this preserves more bits of data for the darker colors and fewer for the lighter colors to resemble a typical human perception. The chromatic adaptation needs to be processed on linear data. Therefore, when programming the chromatic adaptation, the correct image processing pipeline is to debayer the image, apply the color correction, which will be modified by the chromatic adaptation, and then apply the gamma correction. In Peak Cockpit, the order of processing is managed automatically, but we do need to consider this when programming our own application. So switching back to Peak Cockpit, I have reset the RGB gain values to the factory default and disabled the white balancing. The first test is with the reported 3800 Kelvin color temperature. Under the same tab as the white balancing, we find the chromatic adaption section. If we enable it, we can see 3 parameter options. The algorithm selection provides the option of a legacy algorithm, which was introduced with our original software suite and is provided mainly for forwards compatibility for longer-term customers who may have already been using this correction. And we have the Bradford transform, which is one of the more widely used transformations for color adjustment. If you want to read more on this, a quick Google search will provide plenty of resources on this topic. And here we will work with the Bradford transform. Secondly, we have the color space selection. Here we pick the color space that maps to our application. As we are primarily dealing with a digital representation, I'm going to select sRGB D50 as this is the color space for displays and fits best to my light source. For other applications, you might use other color spaces. For example, CIE RGB is typically used in color measurement applications, and ECI RGB and Adobe RGB are used more commonly in printing applications. The third option is the color temperature setting that the transformation will take as the basis for the calculation. With well-calibrated light sources, the quoted color temperature may be sufficiently accurate to set this number. With lower-cost consumer devices or in uncontrolled environments such as sunlight, the values are not so easily determined. The quoted color temperature here is 3800 Kelvin. By setting this value on the color temperature slider, we see the white balance immediately is much closer to a true white or grey. And with fine adjustments to the color temperature, we can get even better results using the line profiler and the grey panels on the color checker as a reference so that I can demonstrate the results accurately. If we now switch the color temperature to a warmer tone, we see from the line profile that the white balance is not accurate. So using the slider, we reduce the color temperature, remembering that lower temperatures confusingly represent warmer colors. And we reach a good result at 3210 Kelvin. And you can see why I have my doubts about the accuracy of the light. This is supposed to be 2200 K. Cockpit can be used to pre-configure the setup, and then the settings can be saved to file so they can be automatically loaded in controlled environments. And there's no requirement then for the fiddly setting up of the camera each time it's used. When we turn to scenes illuminated by sunlight, for example a garden view, we have to estimate the color temperature and use our judgment by comparing what we see on the screen with what we see in the real world. Here you can also check the color temperature of the display in parallel to ensure the most accurate representation. Here we see a predominantly green scene illuminated by morning light with some cloud cover. So as a starting point, we know from the color temperature that sunrise sun is around 3000 to 4000 K and partial cloud is typically 6500 to 8000 K. So if we pick a value in between, say around 5000 K, and enter this as the value, we see a marked improvement in the color representation. But of course you have to take my word for this because you can't see the display that I'm looking at. This is how we can test and set up the chromatic adaption in Peak Cockpit. If you are looking to do this programmatically, it is a simple process. We are using the chromatic adapter class in the IDS Peak IPL. This is the image processing library. And the sample code here shows the 3 steps required. First, we need to prepare the gamma correction with the desired gamma value. Next, we configure the chromatic adaption with the target color space and either the Bradford transformation or the legacy transformation. Then we configure the color correction and finally apply the chromatic adaption with the target color temperature, here 3600 Kelvin, and then enable the gamma correction. As part of the gamma correction, it's also possible to set things like the black level to the desired intensity to be treated as black in the image. And we can also set the color saturation levels should this be necessary for the application. We have seen that using chromatic adaption, it is possible to adapt the color in an image to high color accuracy, even under varying conditions. And the IDS Peak Cockpit provides a convenient utility for the initial testing and configuration, and the Peak IPL library provides the ability to perform these actions with only a few lines of additional code. I hope you found this tutorial useful. There is more information in the documentation, but if you have any questions, please contact us. We will be more than happy to assist. But for now, thank you for your time.